What's up, New World gamers? This is the ultimate Clay exclusive guide to New World. I've got timestamps in the description for everything so you can jump where you need to be, but trust me, I've got everything New World has to offer in one guide. So, subscribe. Quick guide rundown. We've got everything. We've got, in order, weapon builds, weapon combos, leveling guide, updated unlike the other ones. This has 1 to 60 because you can kill mobs 9 levels under you now. Who would have thought? Life skills, which includes all of the gathering rotations and how to get from 0 to 200 in literally everything. It also has every bit of information you could want to know about New World in it. And if I miss something, well, I'm sure you'll let me know. Quick things to note before we jump into the weapon builds are that a lot of this info is shared from multiple sources, everything. I made sure to cite everyone, and if I missed you or you feel like you're in creative property of something that I used, just let me know. I'll add you to the list. No problem at all, okay? You can get me in the comments. You can get me on Twitter. You can get me wherever you want. Discord too. Don't care. Just let me know. Weapon builds! Now, weapon builds are something that are going to be one of the hottest topics in the entirety of New World. Everybody's going to have the best build, the best everything. They didn't read the nodes on the trees. They really didn't, honestly. Now, my builds are catered towards being in a group PvPing, group dungeons, group things, right? So if you are strictly ignoring the group aspects of the game and playing for yourself and 1v1ing only exclusively, then these builds will look a lot different for you. However, this is my focus, and it's generally the focus of an MMO. So there might be slight things you can change, like maybe the orders of the talents. However, after doing a ton of research on pretty much everything, this is the move. It has the exact order to take all of these things in, so you won't have to respec at all. And it's the same for every single weapon. You can go 0 to max level, not respec one time. This saves you alot, this saves you gold. It saves you a bunch of time, and it saves you a bunch of mental grief thinking you clicked the wrong thing. Just do them in this order. You'll be just fine. One of the biggest things to note here about the doc too is that any of these blue text are hyperlinks. You click this, and you have direct access to the entire build. And this is something that none of the other guides had that I really needed to see, was the ability to hover over the skills and see what they actually do. After seeing what a lot of these random people were taking, I was absolutely shocked to realize that they're just clicking garbage half of the time. And there's not even that many nodes to click, so it's actually insane. Either way, you get full explanations on everything that's happening here, including the reasoning for taking them, which is more explained in the weapon combos and actually just on the dock itself. Getting right into sword and shield, it's the best damage soaking weapon in the entire game, and the reason I'm saying that is it's not actually the best tank weapon in the entire game, but paired with the hatchet it is. So, just to note something about shields very quickly is that there's quite a bit of different mechanics to them. I never really looked too heavily into them because there's just a couple types of shields and they all almost do the same things. Swole Benji in this hyperlink has a really good video fully explaining the shields, and it's like a 10-minute discussion, so that's not something we're getting into right now. We're going to go directly, only talk about the weapons that actually have skill trees. So, first thing we're going to do is take a look at our build. Main things to look at here are Shield Rush, Shield Bash, and Defiant Stance. Combined with defensive formation, you are going to be almost unkillable. The main idea is that you're soaking damage here. Short Sword and Shield is easily the best damage soaking weapon in the entire game. Now you can go Swordmaster if you are playing to like 1v1 people and stuff, but this is also really effective in sieges, the end game PvP of New World, simply because you need to push the points, and when you walk up, defensive formation is just absolutely crazy, and it lets you just sit on the points with healing wells under you, and you can just enjoy your free time sitting on the point until one team loses. Now we're going to take a look at the Great Axe, one of the most controversial, overpowered weapons in the entire game, and that's because it kind of is overpowered. So, big things to look at with the Great Axe: you're going to have the best engage in the game, you're going to have a ton of damage, and you're going to be almost unstaggerable all of the time. that you're playing it if you're playing correctly. When I say Great Axe has high impact, you are going to see a ton of them in GVGs, open world, mass PvP, and just in general in dungeons. It's amazing. Just take a look at the build really fast to explain why this is so overpowered. The big reason is Bloodlust. It's absolutely a crazy skill. It does crazy things. Being able to just run 30% faster when you're near someone and just do 15% more damage basically every time you're attacking makes this one of the best nodes in the entire game. There really is no getting around that. It's just OP. The main reason this weapon feels so overpowered and so oppressive is pretty simple. Charge lets you close the gap on pretty much everyone, which activates Bloodlust, so there's not a lot of getting away from you. You have a pull, more not getting away from you. Gravity Well, easily the best, most high impact ability in the entire game. This is crazy for GVGs. I used it myself. As you can see here. It absolutely carries your team. If you're going to be engaging, this is the ability that you want. If you're playing melee, there really isn't another better ability. You're going to be able to do big things for your team. The biggest reason Gravity Well is so oppressive is you actually can't shift dash out of it. You need to use a movement ability like Charge to get out of it. There's a bunch of similar abilities on the other weapons, but you get the point that this weapon is just extremely oppressive in every way. Now we're going to get into the Warhammer, one of my personal favorite weapons in the entire game, just because it's a big hammer and I like to compensate for a couple of things, okay? It's just fun. The damage output potential is absolutely ludicrous as soon as you get a lot of the talents. Pre all of the talents, it is a very weak, slow weapon, and you're going to have patience leveling it up. However, my main build is Great Axe Warhammer. Just for a majority of situations, this ended up being really powerful and was actually a ton of fun. So we're just going to take a look at the build really quick. Crowd Crusher, all three of these abilities are definitively better than the other abilities. I did see a couple people using some of the other ones, but at the same time, you're really just trying to be disruptive with this build. One of the biggest things to note is that with Path of Destiny, if you hit enough people, you could actually just reuse the skill over and over again with some of the talents. As you can see, you get 5% cooldown reduction for every enemy you hit. And a lot of the times when you're PvPing, you might actually hit the 20 people you need because the AoE on this is massive. When we take a look at the talents you're going to be taking, you're going to be able to get 35% life back for every Crowd Crusher ability that you use. This ends up absolutely being crazy in PvP, especially with Path of Destiny spam. Surprisingly, once you actually get this weapon leveled up, you get a ton of movement speed, slows, and you feel like glue. Nobody can unstick you from your target. You have Swing Away, you have Facilitated Expedition, and you have Aftershock, basically making you unstoppable. And if somebody decides they want to hit you, you're going to do 35% more flat damage, which is absolutely crazy. Warhammer is super fun, has a lot of potential, and a lot of people wrote it off, so make sure you don't. Hatchet. The only weapon more controversial than Great Axe. Hatchet is actually overpowered. There's just nothing to say about Hatchet. It is absolutely ridiculous in every way, shape, and form. It's one of the highest DPS weapons in the entire game. It's one of the best 1v1 weapons in the entire game. Even if you play well against it, it's still really hard to deal with. Most of the builds for it are just full constitution. They don't even care about strength. They don't care about how much damage it's going to do. With Berserk up, you're probably just going to kill them anyways, and with this build, you're pretty much guaranteed to turbo it. Almost everyone you run into in the open world. 90% of players aren't going to be able to deal with the pressure of you just pressing W and left clicking them to death, which is what you're probably going to be doing. So we're going to take a look at the buildo. So to get into why this weapon is so broken, very simply, Berserk is ridiculous. It has a 50% uptime. You get a flat 20% movement speed boost when there is no mount. This is crazy. Some people literally just get this to level 2 to press Berserk and sprint across the map. It's actually really valuable. I'm probably going to do it too. So this regens your HP. Simply as it says, 30% of your max HP. So the more health you have in your health pool, the stronger this gets. So, Berserk again, crazy. Breaks you out of CCs. So people that do catch you, you can just press Berserk and then you're free. It's like a PvP trinket from WoW. And you can't be staggered when you're attacking with the final talent. One more thing is that you're also almost unkillable. So, yeah, that's great. I personally used Great Axe Hatchet to level for like the first 15 to 20 levels. It just works good, honestly. Hatchet's one of the best weapons in the game to just get to the fisherman with. And if you go to the leveling portion of the guide, it shows you. Take a look at Feral Rush. Most people are just going to be running away from you because you're going to be in Berserk stance, so they're trying to cut you. If you do get to them, which you probably will because you're 20% faster than them, you're going to root them for 2 seconds, and then their backs are going to be turned to you. You rending throw them and heavy attack them, and then you do 3 light attacks. These 2 abilities do a good job of explaining that. You're basically just going to turbo everyone you run into. There really isn't a lot to say about it. Rending throw is basically just a 20% damage increase and reduces all of your cooldowns by 20% when you hit someone with it. So you basically just turn into a beast. Now, the reason we take exploitation instead of aimed throw is simply because of 15% more damage. You're actually just becoming a DPS machine with this build, pure melee. It is funny to kill people with throwing axes, so you could debatably swap those talents out and have more fun throwing axes at things. It's easy to kill woodland critters with throwing axe too, so that's your personal choice. This is mine. Rapier, the hardest weapon in the game to use. Now, Rapier is a lot of fun, honestly. The main issues with it is if you have higher ping, like I do, it becomes very hard to actually use the weapon. So a lot of people are like, it's really easy. It's like you also probably have lower ping, and sometimes riposte just does not work. Another thing to notice about riposte is that the y-axis in the game is absolutely terrible, and riposte suffers from it, that's to say the least. The main ideas behind this build are actually strictly movement and 1v1. Blood is a really high DPS outputting tree and actually is probably better for PvE, but what we're looking at here is that Rapier is usually a secondary to another better GVG or group weapon. So being able to have multiple iframes, movement dash, very powerful. It also doesn't slouch on damage. You're actually going to be able to output a ton of damage with this build. Because evade has such a low cooldown, you can always evade, get behind the target, activate momentum, heavy attack, and in PvE you're going to do a ton of damage. In PvP, it's the same thing. People are slow. You're actually going to be able to outplay them very easily with this. At least 90% of people or most hatchet users. The build is safe in PvE. It's safe in PvP. It's what you want to use to get out of most situations that you get your. It's what you're going to want to use to get out of most situations where you find yourself in trouble, and you'll find yourself basically kiting everybody in the game, including hatchet users. The only thing that might be able to catch you is a great axe if they can stick on top of you, but if you use the build correctly, a great axe is going to have trouble even coming near you because most of the time you're wearing a rapier, you're wearing light armor. So, just things to keep in mind that the weapons you pair this with, which we'll go over later, all benefit from having insane movement and iframes. Now we're going to get right into Spear. This is debatable build. A lot of people don't agree with me on this one. However, I used a build very similar to this. I only got to the weapon to level 12 on the open beta test. But everyone I did run into 1v1 really couldn't deal with it. So the biggest things here are that you're going to have a ton of cooldown reduction. You're going to have a ton of CC, and you're genuinely just going to get behind the target and spam them to death. Just to take a look at the build really quick, the 3 abilities that we took are Vault Kick, Perforate, and Sweep. So, the biggest things to look at here are you get a knockdown, you get a stun. Both of these have crazy potential. Vault Kick gives you damage increase and cooldown reduction. Additionally, Exploited Weakness gives you bonus damage per debuff you have on the target. Now, This also counts stacking debuffs. So when you look at Perforate, you get 3 stacks of rend if you hit all 3 attacks. So when you vault kick someone, you just dash behind them, you perforate them, and then you actually have time to sweep them as well, which then lets you attack them from the back again with a heavy attack, and this build is built around heavy attacking. So you will be critting a lot because you're behind the target, so you have 100% crit chance. You have a ton of cooldown reduction, so you're going to be spamming perforate, which also just obliterates people's health bars, by the way. It is absolutely crazy. So enjoy your time with it. It's a great build for 1v1. It's a great build for PvE in general, and it's a great build just to get you through the game. Now, the only debatable thing to change here is if you are just strictly PvEing and you're never going to turn PvP on. You can get rid of Merciless Strength and Sweep, which you would then dump these 4 points into Skewer just to get the extra bleed, so that way you could have 1 more debuff and be doing more DPS. That is a PvE only build. Has a lot less potential in my opinion, because most of the time there is a lot of adds that you can knock down in a lot of these PvE fights or in these dungeons. And a lot of bosses are notorious just for spawning adds. Being able to knock them all down, do bonus damage to them, is very valuable. 1 good knockdown and 1 good perforate, you're going to be pumping DPS. So it's not all about single target, but if that's all you're interested in, then I mean, you can go the other route. This is also one of the best skirmishing weapons in the entire game, along with Rapier. Most hatchet users are going to just W key run at you. You're going to have the CC to put them on the ground, and you're going to be able to perforate them to death, and they're really not going to know what happened. You might actually kill people so quickly with perforate from the back that they might think you're cheating. Now we're going to go over the bow. One of the highest DPS weapons in the entire game. It absolutely pumps. The talents that we take are specifically for GVG and AoE. However, this also provides an insane amount of single target DPS. So, getting right into the build, you see the talents that we took are Poison Shot, Rain of Arrows, and Penetrating Shot. The reason that we are taking so many raw DPS talents is we are probably going to want to use Rapier as your secondary weapon for this. It also scales Dex. The reason we have the Rapier set up the way it is to support the bow, the musket, the fire staff, and the ice gauntlet, because it works with all of them really good. Most of the people I saw using this build were pumping. You do an absurd amount of damage in Siege, especially because people are forced to be clumped up. Your single target gets crazy with a lot of the debuff things that are happening. So just to run down a quick explanation of the bow, Poison Shot's going to create an area of denial that if people step in, they're going to take quite a bit of damage. Like I said, you can shoot it into any choke, any group. It's going to do great. Now we're going to get into Rain of Arrows. This is really easy to hit. With these 2 talents, you're going to get a slow, and you're going to get a bleed. Bleed stacks 3 times, actually gets a little crazy. The damage does get out of control, and we're going to look at Penetrating Shot as our last skill. The further it goes, the more it does. It's just really good, and it goes through multiple people. All these things are really valuable in PvP. All these things in PvE actually do really well too. Now, we took every single damaging increase talent on the tree, and basically your arrows are going to go faster, your headshots are going to do crazy damage, and your heavy attacks are going to destroy people. So, bow, absolutely nuts. Combo it with a rapier, and you probably won't have any problems. Getting into musket, right off the rip here, we're just going to say that the tree actually looks weird, right? I get it. Most people only took 2 abilities with the musket in the first place because trap is almost useless. However, I actually thought trap ended up being one of my more valuable abilities, and only having to invest 2 points in it isn't the worst. So we're just going to take a look at it really quick and explain why musket is so good. So, big things here is to note, musket is hit scan. Absolutely pops off, does an amazing job of just being super oppressive, does a ton of damage. When you run into GVG situations, PvE situations, being able to just shoot and hit your target instantly are really valuable. Powder burn, crazy dot late game. With some of the gem combos you can do, this actually gets ludicrous and almost out of control for damage. You can take almost a third of somebody's health with just the burn. Actually really good. Shooter's stance, kind of just broken. You can actually just kill someone 100 to 0 with it. And the only reason we took traps and this is for the 20% damage increase. It's really good for mobbing. Just to dive the tree a little bit, you got more zoom, headshot damage, flat damage just for standing still and aiming, more headshot damage, more damage, no damage fall off, more damage, no penalty for hip firing, spray and pray. Most people are going to treat this like a Gatling gun, and there's a reason they just don't care. They can shoot you, they hit you, you're going to take a lot of damage. You get hit in the head, you are probably going to have to run away, which you can't because it's a hit scan weapon with tons of range. So, musket, absolutely ridiculous. Go crazy with it. Fire Staff. Now, Fire Staff is just ridiculous across the board. Fire Staff does things that are kind of disgusting. It's easily the most oppressive ranged weapon. Bow and musket are very, very good. However, getting into the Fire Staff build that we took, we have Pillar of Fire, Fireball, and Burnout. Now, things to note are that the runes of Helios are absolutely ridiculous. Okay? Heavy attacks also count as spells, by the way. So, being able to just ham those off is absolutely crazy. You're going to do tons of burn damage. You can debatably cast either of these abilities. A lot of my friends were just casting the pillar and then casting fireball, and they all had fun watching a giant lobbing fireball just hit a group of people and instantly kill them. If 3 to 5 mages all cast at the same time, there's a really high chance you're probably just going to die. Now, this weapon's actually pretty safe because of burnout and how crazy of a dash it actually is. You can get really far with burnout, and it lets you traverse some very questionable terrain, and sometimes if you charge the wrong corner, you kind of fall through the world. One of the best weapons to go to siege with. AoE potential's nuts, damage potential's nuts. In PvE, it's also one of the highest DPS weapons in the game. If you want to play a fire mage, this is the weapon for you. It's going to feel good, it's going to make you feel like a mage, and it's honestly just fun. Now we're going to talk about Ice Gauntlet. This was actually bugged on OBT for like a while and didn't do full damage, which was crazy because it already did insane damage. So, big things to note about the Ice Gauntlet are that there's pretty crazy clips of people just killing entire groups with it. We're going to get right into the build. Ice Storm, Ice Shower, Entombed. These 3 abilities are crazy together. Your Ice Storm is going to let you catch anybody. You're going to do crazy things to them, and they're going to have trouble getting away from you. If you hit somebody with Ice Shower, they're actually going to look like they're crawling on the ground, and they might scream at you in proxy chat. It happened a few times to me, and it's the best part of the game, in my opinion. If you ever do get into real trouble, Entombed's just going to set you free. Entombed's just going to set you free. You're basically just an ice block from World of Warcraft, except people can break it a lot easier, but you can break it early. It actually pushes them back. Ice Gauntlet potential in Siege, absolutely crazy. You're going to see Ice Gauntlets just dropping tons of ice storms on top of gravity wells, and it's just going to do crazy damage. Getting hit by this is nuts. If you're in a full intellect build, it does so much damage that it's honestly really hard to deal with. It's very oppressive, the slows are crazy, and it just does tons of damage. When we look at the PvE aspect of things for this, it's actually insanely good too. Anytime there's troublesome ads, you can just pop Ice Shower down, they're crippled. Ice Storm just does so much damage. Your auto attacks do so much when things are Ice Storm. You're going to just do so much damage all the time. It's crazy. The only focus weapon in the game, the Life Staff. Basically, the thing about the Life Staff is that the main thing about the Life Staff to note is that it actually has surprising damage throughout the game. So while you're leveling, this weapon actually does really good damage, and people are going to get killed by it. You're going to be really surprised when you get hit, and you're going to be wondering what just happened. Why did a support just kill me? It's because it's the nature of the game. Life Staff isn't useless. If you're a support player, you're going to feel good playing the Life Staff because they did a really good job with it. Now we're going to get into the build. So, the build for Life Staff that we took, Orb of Protection, Sacred Ground, and Beacon. Now, you'll see me jump around quite a bit. It's because I want you to see the talents. If I mess up at any point, I'm sorry. When we look at Divine Blessing, 50% more healing, below 50% health, obviously just ridiculous. When we look at the abilities for the Life Staff, you have great single target healing, you have great AoE healing, you have great protection, you're giving damage reduction, you're giving healing, you're giving everything you need. Your heavy attacks are going to be your mainstay here, which is why we take Absolved. They're going to penetrate things, they're going to heal them for more, they're going to do well. You can heal, you can do damage, you can basically do everything with the Life Staff, and You're going to feel good doing it. So I'm finally happy to say a game has done support correctly, and the entire thing actually feels good to play. Looking at a PvE perspective, this is the only healer in the game. You could run 2 to 3 of them in your group, and it's probably still fine. They do good damage, and if you have enough, you're probably just unkillable. Honestly, there's no limit to how many life staffs you can have in a group. They're just good. When we look at PvP, it's the only healer in the game, so you're obviously going to need a bunch of healers in PvP. With the healing wall they put on the ground and the damage protection, you're basically going to need these to push into points. You're going to need people to group on them, and it's going to be one of the most valuable assets for a GVG or a siege. If you try and go without any healers, you are just going to get slaughtered. So that's Lifestaff. Now, choosing a weapon combo. This is one of the hardest things to do in the game because there's so many weapons. Now, a lot of us played CBT and OBT, and we used those to dictate which weapons we would choose. Now, all the skill builds above are what I want you to use in these weapon combos. Now, these aren't just my weapon combos. They're weapon combos from some of your favorite streamers, some of your favorite YouTubers, and, well, me, because I made a bunch of the buildos. So, these are only the best weapon combos. There obviously is other weapon combos in the game. There is weapon combos I don't know about. And every time a new OP weapon combo pops up, I'm going to add it to this list. It's as simple as it gets. If you think I missed a weapon combo, which I probably did, but I mostly didn't account for gems. That's the only thing. Okay? So when you think about a level 60 super build with a mega gem, I only included one of those, and this is the only one I personally know worked very well because I've seen it a couple of times and I actually used it myself on OBT. So, getting right into it, strength-based builds. Great Axe and Hammer, Claysthetics Drain Tank, obviously OP, right? The reason I listed as difficulty medium is because when you stance over to Hammer, there's a lot of times you're just going to get spam staggered out of your skills, and if you desync, you're probably going to die. The big thing here is you can lock people down with the Great Axe, and then you can continue to lock them down with the Hammer, and at the same time deal a ton of DPS to them. So, another thing to know is that you're going to regen a ton of HP using these two weapons, which is why it is a Drain Tank build. It is a heavy Constitution off Strength build. Great Axe Short Sword. Now, this is more of a shot caller weapon. This basically allows you to sit on the point and hold R&B while you're yelling at people, and then capitalize on an engage when you see the opportunity with the Great Axe's Gravity Well. These two things are going to be invaluable to you as a shot caller, and honestly, being able to hold R&B and stand still as a shot caller is basically like your kind of your dream, right? Instead of actually having to play the game, you can just tell everyone what to do and feel pretty safe. Great Axe Hatchet, Flavor of the Month players. Now, this is the easy build. You basically just equip the hatchet and go burr. Somebody is getting away from you, you just use the Great Axe to catch them. Now, you can lock them down with the Great Axe, swap to the hatchet, and just ham them to death. This is a max Constitution off Strength build. Very simply, for the regen on the hatchet, you're basically going to be unkillable, and that's it. Build is just nuts. This is the most popular build on OBT and CBT. You basically saw everybody using it. We're going to go into Dex builds. Rapier and Bow. Saw Shroud using this quite a bit if you watch him. He did a lot of crazy things with it and is actually one of the better builds in the game. The Bow's going to output a ton of DPS, and the Rapier is going to keep you safe. But at the same time, the Rapier is also going to be able to output a ton of damage. So the reason this is a harder build is simply because the Rapier is actually harder to use if you have higher ping. The lower ping you have, the easier Rapier is to use. As a whole, the build is absolutely insane, and you're going to see this quite a bit in the later stages of the game. Musket, the sweaty build. Now, again, this is listed as a hard build. Basically the same thing as the bow. It really just depends what kind of ranged weapon you want to use. If you want to use a hit scan weapon, the musket's for you. That's as simple as it gets. If you're good at getting headshots, the musket's going to pump out a ton of damage. The bow is going to be better for AoEing things, right? That's the only difference between the two builds. Again, Rapier, hard to use if you have higher ping, easier if you are on lower ping. However, the musket is hard to use all of the time, even with hit scan. There's obviously still desync. There's still random things that happen in the game. There's lag, whatever, right? But if you're getting the headshots, you're doing good. So that's why this build is listed as hard. Now, Rapier and Spear, meme build. This build basically just lets you 1v1 everybody in the game. A Great Axe Hatchet user is going to struggle to deal with this. You're going to be able to kite them forever because a Great Axe Hatchet actually can't catch a Rapier. And the Spear is going to give you enough CC potential and damage to just be able to chunk people super quickly. So, even through Berserk, you might actually be able to CC combo someone to death with this build. I saw it a couple of times. I saw a couple random streamers using it, and it was actually really good, which is why I included it. It's kind of a sleeper build, very useless when it comes to later game stuff like Siege and like late game PvE stuff. However, it is extremely good in 1v1s and might actually be one of the better 1v1 builds in the entire game. This is max dex off constitution build. Intellect based builds. Firestaff Ice Gauntlet. Max int off constitution. This is basically your bread and butter siege, GVG, PvE, you name it. This is big damage, safety, right? Firestaff has the movement and tons of damage. Like, there's just no getting around that Firestaff has the crazy AoE. It has the crazy single target. You just can't deal with it. Ice Gauntlet has the slows to keep you safe, and it has Ice Block. Now, one thing to know about the Ice Block too is when you max it out, it actually clears all of your debuffs. This gets pretty ridiculous pretty quickly. You'll see this build all the time in Siege, and honestly, everybody I saw using it was always top damage by a landslide. This build was out of control. So, Ice Gauntlet Rapier, max in off con. You're going to be able to kite forever with the Rapier. You're going to be able to finish people off. Your Ice Gauntlet abilities persist when you swap weapons. So this basically just makes you a monster. Ice Gauntlet is easily one of the best ganking weapons in the entire game and actually lets you gut entire groups and balls of players. Ice Gauntlet's just insane. Firestaff Rapier. Now, this build basically just makes you the ultimate fire abuser, right? You can get anywhere on the map quickly and effectively. You're running around, you're doing crazy things. You're always in the perfect position to put out the most damage, and most importantly of all, you're always safe. The amount of movement you have with this is ludicrous. You can get basically everywhere. Easily one of the best builds in the game, in my opinion, and there isn't really a lot that you can do to deal with it. It's a max intellect off constitution build. Very broken. There's only 2 gem-based weapon combos in this guide. Now, this one is actually so reliant on the gem that you can't do it without the gem. So, what you're going to do here is later on in the game, you will be able to use the Great Axe with the Ice Gauntlet, put the 50% frost damage gem or above into the Great Axe. It's going to convert some of the damage to frost. So, if you're scaling intellect, this is really good. Even if you don't scale the Great Axe at all you need to do is use it to catch up to people, walk them down, and get them in your Ice Gauntlet abilities. That way you can just obliterate them with the Ice Gauntlet. This combo is crazy for engaging and is crazy for making solo plays against giant groups of people. You'll be really surprised at how good this actually does. It's a max intellect off constitution build. Focus-based builds. Now this one's actually coming into us from Sir Medieval. There's just no hiding that he made this paladin build. Obviously, it's a really well done build. If you click here, this takes you right to his paladin video. So make sure you go check him out and make sure you subscribe to him because he made this build and all the credit should go to him. In my opinion, this build is best played as max focus and off constitution, making you a real support with the life staff and actually giving you the ability to tank with the short sword and shield. So quick things to note is that this can be a great off-tank build, a great main tank build, and easily the best support build. You're going to provide tons of healing to your team. You're going to provide tons of damage reduction with sword and shield when you need to for when you can't heal. Now, the last focus build on the list is Great Axe / Lifestaff. One of my friends named Conan turned me onto this build, and it's cracked. You're going to see a lot of people using this on live. It's really good. You max focus off con. You're going to be healing a lot with the life staff, and if you're in a group, you're just going to want to heal from more than rather than have more HP. You're not really going to feel the HP loss, especially when you can heal for your whole health bar, no problem. Now, the gimmick here is that the gem in the Great Axe for nature damage is actually going to help you scale focus. The final build we're going to get into is a pure constitution build. This is easily the best tank build in the entire game. There is just no contesting that. Most people don't know that the hatchet can just be used not only as one of the highest DPS PvE weapons in the game, but also the best tanking weapon in the game. When you max Constitution, you can regen 30% of your health pretty consistently. So the mainstay behind this build is when you need to block, you obviously use your short sword and shield. You block a bunch of attacks. Stam starts getting low. You swap over to the hatchet, regen all the HP you could have lost. It basically turns you into a solo tanking monster that can basically do whatever you want by yourself. And it lets you have a poopy healer in your group because you know that's going to happen sometimes. Most hatchet users won't even care about the damage loss from not going strength. You're still going to be able to run people down and kill them. The big difference is nobody will be able to kill you. You're going to regen so much HP. It actually is just ridiculous. We're quickly going to dive into my leveling guide, which is a 1 to 60 guide. You're going to need roughly 30 million EXP, which when we open this table here, if you add all of this up, I just did a rough estimate. It's about 30 million. It could be give or take a couple million either way, but it's about 30 million. Okay. Now, another thing to look at is the best 1 to 25 guide that I personally found was also on New World Hub. The best 1 to 25 guide that I found was on New World Hub. Basically, you can't choose your starting zone in this game, so you pick whatever one you want. Let's just say we started in Monarch's Bluffs. Tells you exactly what to do. If you're the kind of person that needs step-by-step instruction, this is the guide for you. Okay, this was written by Bredy and Studi and developed by Narek and Aoli. Ale. Yeah, I got it. I didn't mess that up at all. So that's the place to go if you need absolute direction. They do plan on updating it from 1 to 60. But personally, this is my guide. This is how I'm going to personally level, and that's it. So 1 to 5, skip tutorial. 5 to 10, do main quest. 10 to 15, keep blasting the main quest. Do some side quests. 15 to 18, start getting your life skills up. Get ready to do weakness of the ego. 18 to 23. This is basically side quests and main quests. You're going to cap out around Amarine. You're going to want to get to level 23 before you do Amarine, simply to get the questing done. Just simply to get the quests done. 23 to 25. You can choose to spam Amarine, or you can choose to just keep doing the main quests and side quests. Personally, we're probably going to do Amarine like maybe 2 to 3 times. Bounce. You can do it 5 times in total. 23 to 25. You can choose to keep spamming Amarine. Now, you can only do this for as many tuning orbs as you have. So if you're leveling in a group of 5 people, you're going to be able to do this 5 times. However, I don't recommend doing Amarine 5 times. I will personally do it 2 to 3 times, maybe, to get some extra levels rounded out. And then we're going to go back to doing the main story quest and keep blasting. So we're going to get to 25 to 33. At this stage, you actually can start elite grinding. But I'm not going to start elite grinding until a little bit later on in the game. The corrupted portals that pop up are a good way to round this EXP off. So if you ever do get stuck, that's the way to go. 33 to 40, you can come up on Starstone Burrows. Again, you can do this 5 times. Doing Starstone Burrows 5 times actually isn't a bad thing. After this, you can continue your main story quest. And make sure you don't skip your main story quest. Make sure you do the whole thing. The side quests that come alongside it are very valuable too. 40 to 50. At this stage of the game, you're basically forced into doing group grinding, so the depths is probably going to be a lot of fun for you at least 5 times here. You're going to keep doing the main story quest. It's going to tank off after. You hit about 42 to 43. I think that's when it ran out on OBT. Let me know if I'm wrong. The depths on curve is actually fairly difficult, like gear-wise, so if you were having bad luck on drops, it will be a lot more difficult than it should be. Otherwise, it is a fairly easy dungeon, but it was very buggy. However, this is live launch. Hopefully, they fixed a lot of the bugs. If they did, the dungeon's actually going to be a cakewalk once you learn the mechanics of it. So, running the depths 5 times, pretty valuable here because you're going to get 5 tuning orbs just for doing the quests up to it. Now, you can craft more, and you can debatably keep doing this, but I will personally probably run the depths 5 times and then go do elite runs or farm elite areas with my group and get to level 50. We listed 2 of the best areas, which are the Lost and the Angry Earth. You can get to level 50 very easily here. The mobs in both of these regions have specific levels, so level 40 and then level 48. So you can round your levels off. Like I said before, you get full EXP for killing mobs 9 levels under you now. Don't forget that. At the same time, you can't skip doing your side quests. So when we get 50 to 55, side quests become a lot more important and a lot more valuable. Group grinding is the way to go. However, what I will be doing is I will be doing the side quests in the area and then finishing those levels off with the group grind. From 50 to 55, we can't stop doing our side quests. We actually need to do our side quests if we want to unlock some of the better things in the game. So at this stage, you're going to do the side quests until the quests turn gray. You're going to go do your group grind at your spot. You're going to come back. You're going to redo this, do more of the side quests, get them all done. Trust me, you're going to need to get all the side quests done. Don't slouch on them. Most importantly, Shattered Mountain. You have to do the side quests here. You can't skip them. You actually need to do them. If you do skip them, you're going to have to backtrack and go do them at max level. The main reason is when you get your weapon to level 20, you get a super weapon, okay? Now, it's not actually a super weapon, but it is a 580 item level weapon. And because if you're leveling up in the first week, none of the towns are going to have the ability to support you crafting a higher tier weapon, you are going to want this weapon. It's going to carry you at level 60 for quite a while. So, do all the side quests in Shattered Mountain. Your group grinding spots are listed in these red areas. Lower Skeven, you can basically just get right to level 60 with. The same thing goes for Scorpius. A lot of people did that on OBT. Now, 55 to 60, you start looking at the other areas. The mountains to the left of the Great Cleave, great way to get to level 60. You can get more XP here than these other two spots, but these two spots are still fine. And Upper Skeven is also very powerful. And Upper Skeven is also a ton of EXP, so grind both of these spots, go crazy, get level 60, enjoy the game. Turns into a grind fest, but that's okay. If you do want to skip the grind fest, I understand. The grind fest isn't for everybody. I actually understand that. You can still level up doing life skills. You can do the side quests. You can do normal mob farming. Normal mobbing isn't as much EXP, but you can also do it solo. I know a lot of people want to play solo. So coming to that point, you can play the entire game solo until you hit the dungeons. Your main quests are your biggest source of EXP. You have to do them. You have to go group for the dungeons at least once. You have to do it so that you can continue your main story quest. So, with all that being said, that's the end of the leveling guide. Now we're going to talk about life skills, just to jump into tools before we go over all the gathering routes. The higher tier tool you have, the faster you gather, as you can see here. A star metal logging axe gives you 550% gather speed, but an orichalcum logging axe gives you 850% speed. Now, upgrading your tools regularly is something you should do, and don't slouch on it because you're wasting your own time if you don't, and your time is valuable. Do not waste it. Get the better tools. It's always worth it. You're also going to have extra stats later on in the game, like this fishing pole. What you want your gathering tools to look just like that. Don't lie to me. One thing to note is that all these images were taken from the New World database map. When you enter the map, you're going to hit hide all. You're going to scroll down. There's going to be resources. So if you want to find ironwood trees, you want to find weirdwood trees, right? Becomes very easy to find. So make sure you use this map. We also talk about the New World fan map a little bit later, but when we get to that, we'll get to that. So now we're going to get right into gathering routes. So logging. Common trees are littered literally everywhere in the world. From 1 to 30, it's very easy to find young trees to level up with, and it's very easy to find mature trees. However, the fastest way to get this up is to just go right beside Windsward, run in that circle. You're going to be able to get your young trees out of the way so you can get into your mature trees. And then once you're done with your mature trees at level 100, you can go get some weirdwood. So, next thing we're going to do is take a look at weirdwood. Right beside Brightwood, this is one of the best places to go gather your weirdwood and help level it up quickly. There are obviously other places in the game, so if this is too contested, just use the map like I showed you and go find the ones you want. Ironwood. This is definitively the best rotation for ironwood in the entire game. There's tons of nodes. You run in this circle, you're going to have a ludicrous amount of ironwood. This is located in even Eden Grove. Mining. When you navigate on the left here, you go to mining. You can just click any of the things that you need. We're going to get right into iron ore, right outside of Windsward. This is one of the best gathering rotations in the entire game. It has silver and gold along it as well. So when your mining gets up there, you can continuously run this. keep getting those too. But the main things to note here is this is the easiest to traverse, most amount of iron nodes that you're going to be able to get to in the game. Silver ore, it's just outside of Everfall. There are a ton of silver ore nodes here. If you can get here when it's uncontested, you can basically just continuously run in a circle and just keep farming in a crazy amount of silver. So make sure you're on top of it. Gold ore. Outside of Weaver's Fen, try not to go in if you're a lower level. You will get smoked, but this has the most gold ore in the game. There are a couple other places you can go, but again, this circle is just crazy for gold ore. Oil. Pretty much only located in Weaver's Fen. There are small clusters around the map of other oil, but if you're farming oil, this is the spot. You're going to get a ton of oil, like a ton of oil in this spot. It is a little bit annoying to run through this area specifically because it's very marshy, so you will kind of get bogged down. And because we don't know how to swim in New World, you're going to walk at the bottom of the murky water like the Terminator. Might not feel very good about that. Personal choices. Platinum ore. This is debatably the best platinum ore route in the game. Very easy to get to. In Reek water, very easy to farm. Terrain's easy to traverse. Just as simple as it gets. It's just an easy route to do. Diamond has a lot of locations in the game. However, this is one of the ones that I think is the best. Getting into Orichalcum ore, you're going to be in the Shattered Mountains. There are a ton of high-level mobs around these. All of the other gathering areas that I listed don't have hard mobs to deal with. When you're running through the Shattered Mountains, you're going to be consistently dealing with hard mobs, especially in this area here. This is a group grinding area. So, things to note here are that you actually need gear to farm Orichalcum ore, or you are going to get smoked. If you need another one, just go to the New World database map and find other rotations. Harvesting. One thing to note about harvesting is that we switched over to the New World fans map simply because they have more herbing nodes and harvesting nodes. For some reason, New World database had a really low amount of harvesting nodes. I don't know why. Either way, New World fans picked up the slack on this one and has the perfect little location for basically all of the nodes for harvesting. So make sure you check out New World fans. Their map is slightly different, obviously, but as you can see, Hemp Gang. Hemp Gang rise up. So again, Windsward, one of the main hubs in the entire game. Hemp is just abundant. Everywhere you go, you're going to see a bunch of hemp. Along this route, you're just going to be able to honestly level your gathering up, no problem. I think I was gathering about 4,000 hemp every 18-ish minutes, and at the time I was still new, so I wasn't aware of the potions that you could drink to get more per gather. So Silkweed is in Brightwood, easy rotation to farm, fast to get to. You can just tear this apart, no problem. You're going to get a ton of Silkweave on this, don't worry about it. Wire Fiber. That's a suspicious little picture. This is the best wire fiber farming route. That's it, really. There's a couple other places with wire fiber. This is the most dense, and unless it's uncatalogued, which I don't think it is, this is where you're going to find it. Now to talk about tracking and skinning. Just skin everything you come across. There really isn't a specific location or genuine run through for this. Just skin all of the monsters that you kill, right? All of the beasts, just skin them. If you do this, you will be on curve to just never worry about leveling up, tracking, and skinning. However, if you just kill the mobs and run by them, then you're just going to have to backtrack and go kill a bunch of low-level monsters to level your skinning. Just do it while you're leveling. Just don't make me talk about it. Tracking and skinning doesn't really need a lot of pictures. If you really need to find a specific animal, go to New World Database, click Hide All, click Animals. Okay, now you see all the animals on the map, and you see the point of not wanting to actually make 10,000 images for this, right? You can level your skinning very easily. Just don't be lazy. Fishing. These are all of the fishing hotspots on the map. I listed the filter that you need to see this. Essentially, this is the rare, the secret, and the broad fishing spots, okay? This is where you're going to get all of the highest level fish. So enjoy that. Quick things to note before we jump into the weapon builds are that a lot of this info is shared from multiple sources, everything. I made sure to cite everyone, and if I missed you or you feel like you're in creative property of something that I used, just let me know. I'll add you to the list. No problem at all. Okay? You can get me in the comments. You can get me on Twitter. You can get me wherever you want. Discord too. Don't care. Just let me know. I'm going to quickly break down the table of contents for a lot of you that don't know how to use Google Docs. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to click. Oh, we see items and definitions. Boom. It's going to take you right down to where you want. So every one of these blue links will drag you down there. This guide is going to be consistently updated with every single New World patch. I won't miss a single beat, and the changelog is going to be right here. For every time I update it, it's going to be posted. These are all the data mined weapons, and when they get added, we will have full builds and weapon combos for them. But for now, they're not available. For some reason, the blunderbuss is double not available because I actually really wanted to use it. Unfortunate. You're going to have New World Database and New World Fans. Both of these are the two websites to go to for this stuff. There is no other, well, there is other ones, but these are the best ones. New player tips and tricks. The biggest thing to note here is salvage everything and don't equip a shield if you're not using a short sword. Quick rundown on the leveling guide. Like I said, I updated it 1 to 60. Now, you can kill mobs that are 9 levels under you to get full EXP. As we're taking a look, it just briefly explains everything you need to do and gives you pictures of everything you need here. We're going to be taking a look at Fusion Thunder's guide. He actually did a really good job at just explaining the areas and like where you should be. Gearing in endgame. This is probably something the majority of you are interested in. Obviously, get gold. Your first set of gear is probably going to be faction gear, depending on how much you are actually group grinding elites on the way up. If you were group grinding elites, then you're probably going to be pretty geared. Endgame super weapons. Your quest lines, you get level 20 on your weapon. You have to do all of the side quests in Shattered Mountain, and then you can go ahead and get yourself one of these shiny 580 weapons. This is a great way to start your level 60 adventure, because all the weapons are actually pretty good. Crafted gear is going to be the mainstay of the later stages of the game, so don't forget that. Level 60 dungeons are going to be the best way to get the best gear for quite a bit of time until all the towns hit level 5 so that you can actually craft the best gear. Because until the time gate's done, we're not crafting anything. Elites and named bosses are also a great way to get pretty good gear. One thing to note about the level 60 expeditions is that you can snapshot your gear when you enter. The example is if you are wearing full 525 gear, but you have 540 gear in your bag that is light, and let's say you're the tank and you don't want to use light armor, you equip all of your best pieces, all of your highest item level pieces, walk into the dungeon, and then you're snapshotted. The game thinks you're a higher item level. It wants to give you higher item level pieces. So then you just equip your normal gear again. It is determined when you enter the dungeon. They might change this for live, but that is literally how it worked on forever. So do it. Well, we're talking about that. We're going to look at Invin's video on how to get better loot in New World. This is easily one of the best videos to like kind of explain the snapshotting thing. And if we take a look at Malizetic's video, he explains the entire drop system in New World, how it works, and what the reasonings and logic tables are behind the drops in New World. Actually a good video if you're just hyper sweaty about knowing how things actually drop. Great video, make sure you check them out. So now we're going to get into the PvE expeditions portion of this guide. We're going to get over it pretty quickly. First thing we're going to look at New World databases dungeon maps and the guides from New World Hub. So when you look at each dungeon, you can click on Amarine. You click this, boom, you have the map. I'll move myself over here. You have the map. It tells you where all the chests are. Very important. These elite chests can give you crazy rewards. You have to get them. This way you don't miss a single thing in any of the dungeons. Very important. Okay? Now, click on the full Amarine excavation guide from New World Hub. Perfect guide, honestly. This is such a good guide. I couldn't leave it out. You have to go check this out, honestly. If you haven't done the dungeons before, being able to just read, okay, what's he weak to? What works better against the bosses? What do the bosses do, right? If you like to have that extra level of preparation, this is where it's at, honestly. I absolutely love it. So now we're going to run over the difficulty levels of each dungeon. Amarine, easy. First dungeon you're going to do. Very fast to get through. Starstone Burrows, easy. You're going to blast through with the party pretty easily as long as you understand what you're doing, which is why the guide is so helpful here. A lot of the telegraph mechanics on the ground will actually just kill you in one shot because of the gear level you're going to go into it with. The depths actually gets fairly difficult, so especially on the gear curve that you end up in the depths with, you're going to feel very weak the first one or two times you do it. After you get that gear, though, you're going to rip through this place. And honestly, the depths gear is so good, it will carry you into the later stages. Dynasty Shipyard. My personal favorite dungeon in the entire game is Dynasty Shipyard. It looks amazing. Solid level 50 dungeon. Garden of Genesis. This is our first 60 exclusive dungeon that you'll run into. It's very hard, especially if you are lower item level. I actually wouldn't recommend going into here under 525 as a casual gamer. Now, some of your sweaties are just going to go in here at whatever level, and they are going to do well, and that's fine. A lot of people have actually done this dungeon quite a few times already on OBT, so they have quite a bit of an advantage over you who haven't done it before. However, with the guide, it definitely explains a lot of the stuff. Garden of Genesis is very cool. If you're into plant stuff and like creepy underground hollows and stuff, Garden of Genesis is so cool, honestly. So this is going to be one of the first places that you're actually going to be getting extremely high level gear from. You're going to be spamming Garden of Genesis pretty often. Same thing comes when we're talking about a Lazarus instrumentality. It is extremely unforgiving. The boss is like epic, as you can see from this picture. He is just so cool. He's the last boss in the dungeon. He's massive and he's tons of fun to fight. Any mistake in here is probably going to have you die in one hit, especially if you're coming in here at lower item level. That's just how it goes. There's open world areas to farm too. We talked about those in the leveling guide. A lot of those open world areas stay relevant, especially in the Great Cleave. I personally will be working towards crafting a full set of my own custom supercharged gear and farming this awesome dungeon gear. Now, if you find yourself struggling too much getting into Garden of Genesis and Lazarus Instrumentality, one of the best things you can do is go do your faction quest and get your faction gear, and that'll round your item level out to actually be able to do it. Just for more info stuff, we're going to take a look at attributes and stat distributions. Every single one of these has threshold bonuses. I'm not going to explain every single one of them to you. You can go to the guide and look at them for yourself. All you have to do is click on one of them and it'll tell you all the bonuses. You'll also be able to see this with all the little orbs in game, which are these little orbs right here. Not a problem. These are all the gems we were talking about. Very easy to navigate to. You go to gear, gems, armor, gem effects. This tells you all of them. Obviously, they scale higher later into the game. Okay, New World gamers. This is the end of the guide video for now. I'm going to be doing more and bigger guide videos later with more in-depth and in-game gameplay, so make sure you subscribe to see more of that. And don't forget, it's a brand new game. This might be a sweaty min-max guide showing you all the things, but it is a new world. I want you to go explore it. I want you to have fun. That's my main goal. I'm going to go just have fun on the game. I'm going to play. I'm going to enjoy it with my friends, and I'm going to enjoy it with people that I haven't played games with in years. This is the only NA MMO coming out for quite a while, if at all. And I hope we all enjoy it together. So stay blessed. Have a beautiful evening, day, wherever you're at. And don't forget to stay safe out there. If at any time you do want to come talk to me, make sure you just leave a comment. I reply to every single one of them. You can catch me on Twitch. I will be streaming. And if you really want to talk to me directly, I have a Discord. It's all linked right there in the blue links, so you can just click and it'll take you right there. I have that over the entire guide. You're going to be able to click multiple places, multiple times. You can get everywhere you need to be, guys. Have a good night.